Hey, welcome back to Daily Hope. We've been following the footsteps of Jesus really up to his death and his resurrection. This day, Saturday, was known as the Sabbath for the Jewish people, and it wasn't just any Sabbath, it was the Passover. It occurs once a year, a symbolic holiday, a ritual God gave them to prepare them for the Messiah. So no accident that Jesus would be the sacrificial lamb on the Sabbath. Now, yesterday, we were looking at Friday, called Good Friday, or I like to say Bloody Friday. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but Jesus' crucifixion actually begins in the morning hours. You may recall that very early in the morning, the religious leaders take him to Pilate. Pilate, goes to the people. Jerusalem is packed. If you think of Indianapolis when it was hosting the Super Bowl, or any city that's hosting a major event, Jewish people from all over Israel have returned to Jerusalem for the Passover. And there's a great frenzy. The people are all stirred up. Word is spreading. People are getting awakened. Did you know Jesus is going to be crucified? And everyone's running to this center of the city where these decisions are being made. We're actually told, if you follow through the brutality of the crucifixion, in verse 49, it says, "At noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock." So at noon, Jesus is already on the cross. He's already talked to the thief and the other criminals on the cross. And he remains there, and this thunderstorm happens, and it's dark. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cries out with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" So this is the moment when Jesus and the Father, who've never been apart in all of eternity past, nor will they ever be apart in all of eternity future, they are ripped apart by the sins of the world, both of them willingly suffering that rupture of their relationship so that our relationship can be made right with God. Verse 47, some of the bystanders misunderstood and thought he was calling for the prophet Elijah. One of them ran and filled a sponge with sour wine, holding it up to him on a reed stick so he could drink. But the rest said, "Let's wait and see if Elijah comes to save him." Verse 50, then Jesus shouted again, and he released his spirit. So this is the moment when he breathes his final breath. His spirit leaves his body. Later in the New Testament, we're told how his spirit went into hell to preach to the captives the good news. That's a whole fascinating thing. But verse 51, at that moment, in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. There's this giant curtain in the temple, and it's torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, rocks split apart, and tombs opened. The bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead. They left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection, went into the holy city of Jerusalem, and appeared to many people. I mean, this is fascinating stuff. I was hearing the other day from a friend that seismologists have now been able to trace earthquakes back through history. And that sure enough, there's seismological evidence, there's geological evidence that there was indeed an earthquake on the Passover some, 2,000 years ago, around AD 33. So this is fascinating stuff that happens. These believers are raised from the dead. Jesus' spirit is now in hell, proclaiming the gospel to them. His body's going to be laid in a tomb. The next day, we're told, verse 62, on the Sabbath. So now we're up to Saturday. The leading priests and Pharisees went to see Pilate. They told him, "Sir, we remember that this deceiver once said while he was alive, 'After 3 days I will rise from the dead.' So we request that you seal the tomb until the third day. This will prevent his disciples from stealing the body and then telling everyone that he was raised from the dead." Time after time, these religious leaders try to stop the work of God, and it never works. So on this Saturday, the disciples are confused. They don't know what's going on. They've seen earthquakes. They've seen their best friend and their Savior die. God's doing miracles, but they're confused in the midst of it. Tomorrow comes the light after the darkness, the hope after the dismay and despair. It will be Resurrection Sunday tomorrow. Would you be praying for our Easter services? It's not too late to invite anyone you care about to join us in person in Indiana or online as well. I'll see you tomorrow for Easter Sunday.